Because of his efforts toward keeping DeKalb beautiful and environmentally safe, Wanda and I would like to honor our CEO, Burrell Ellis, with a lifetime membership to the DeKalb County Federation of Garden Clubs.
CEO. This is your card. This is your card showing that you're a life member, and Charlotte would like to pin your life member pin on you.
All right, I wasn't expecting this tonight.
Is that okay, though?
No, thank you very much. I'm honored. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in a big welcome for your friend and ours, the Honorable CEO of DeKalb County, Burrell Ellis, Jr.
Thank you, Ms. Moore and Ms. Booth, and thank you all for being here tonight. So this says I'm now a life member of the DeKalb Federation of Garden Clubs. I had asked them to please keep the introduction very short because as honored as I am to receive this award is not why I'm here tonight. I'm obviously here to do something I promised you I was going to do when I ran for this office. We got elected by having face-to-face conversations with the citizens of this county in every part of this county, corner to corner, north, south, east, west, inside the perimeter, outside the perimeter. And then I promise you that the way I ran for the office would be the same way I would govern, by continuing to listen to you so that I could work every day to make your priorities the priorities of this county. But I can't do that without having these kind of continuing face-to-face conversations. So really tonight is more about listening than anything else. We're going to spend our time together, and we started on time and we're going to end on time, 8:30 tonight. And I'm going to listen very intently to your questions. I'm going to do my best to answer them. As always, I promise to be as candid and straightforward with you as I can. If I know the answer to your question, if I don't know the answer to your question, I might have to punt to a member of the DeKalb County staff. We have a few staff people that are here tonight. If we don't know the answer to your question, then I promise you I'll take the information down and I'll get an answer back to you. I'll do my best to get you what you need. And that's the bottom line, and that's why we're here tonight. If you ask a broad question, it's more likely than not, or it's a better chance that I might know the answer. If you ask a very narrow question, then like, you know, when is that pothole in front of my street going to be repaired, then it may be less likely that I'll know the answer. I see Senator Fran Miller. Senator Miller, stand up so we can recognize you. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other elected officials here tonight that, yes, Mayor Pro Tem, is that right? Still Mayor Pro Tem, is that right? Councilman Denny Shortall. So Denny, please, thank you for being here. Thank you for your all's service, and I appreciate all that you do to make me feel welcome. Let me give you a quick overview, and I'm just going to take just a few short minutes to tell you what we've been trying to accomplish during the 3 years that I've been CEO of this county. When I came into this office in January of 2009, we were already into the recession, as you know. And we had a cash flow problem in DeKalb County. In sum, we were spending more than we were bringing in because of the decline in the value of real estate and the fact that our primary source of revenue is property taxes. And so we had to cut our spending, and we had to cut it for services. We consolidated departments, and we are continuing to do a very thorough overview of how we operate government and how we deliver services, understanding that services are important to preserving the quality of life of our citizens, particularly in a difficult economy, and at the same time, nobody can afford to continue to overspend. Last year, Commissioner Larry Johnson, the presiding officer of the Board of Commissioners, and I got on a plane and went up to New York and met with officials on Wall Street, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, because we had to get the county's bond rating restored. We were able to do that, so I'm pleased to report that. We did that through a collaborative effort of the Board of Commissioners, working with our office, We were able to make a good presentation. It didn't start when we got to New York. We had begun that process before we actually left to get to New York. It didn't end when we left New York. We had to continue to provide them with documentation and financial reports. It was a several months process of showing them that we were serious about reining in the county's expenditures and identifying sources of revenue so that we could both deliver the services that they look at. They want to make sure we have a sound infrastructure, and at the same time that we weren't overspending. And so we had to show them that we had the political will to make the difficult decisions that had to be made, just like all of us have to make in our homes each and every day when we're balancing our own budgets. And we were able to show that, got our ratings restored. We are upgrading our water and sewer system throughout the county, and we had to go to market to borrow some $400+ million. Joel, what was the exact amount? You know the exact. 394, and plus there was some added amounts on top of that. What was the total amount? Okay, so $394 million. I rounded to 400. $394 million of borrowing. That's a lot of money so that we could do the first phase of our water and sewer upgrades. Our bonds were oversubscribed in less than 2 hours. That means that despite all that we had gone through, because of the restoration of the rating, investors still found DeKalb County to be a good investment. They rushed to the marketplace. We got a good return on our dollars, and we're going to begin the upgrade of those water and sewer systems. So we're working very hard each and every day as we're restoring the county's finances, moving it in a responsible position so that you can know that your tax dollars are being responsibly utilized and the resources that you're asking us to put to your use are being done in just that way. Second, we're improving public safety. We've had to restructure our public safety systems. When I came into office, police and fire weren't always talking to each other, along with our other public safety systems, animal services, our medical examiner, our courts, and our sheriff's department that interface with our public safety system. And so I appointed a public safety director to be a coordinator of public safety. In fact, I didn't just do that in public safety. We now are working in groups as opposed to just by department. And so we have an infrastructure group. We have a development group. We have a group that oversees jobs and economic growth. We have an administrative group, and we have a public safety group. And so we have Director Wiz Miller. Director Miller's here, so everybody knows who you are. He is Director of Public Safety. And, of course, we have a strong public safety team. I appointed Police Chief William O'Brien, who's here, as our police chief. He's doing a wonderful job. A gentleman who just happens to be his brother, but who had earned it in his own right, Fire Chief Eddie O'Brien. And I don't believe the other O'Brien is here tonight, but he's overseeing fire services. And so we have a whole new management team over public safety. Violent crime is down 37% over the last 3 years in DeKalb County, and that's good news. Property crimes are down 26% over the last 3 years in DeKalb County. But we're not going to rest on our laurels. We know that we've got to continue to do more. Our citizens, we want them to be safe, but we also want them to feel safe. And so we're building 2 new precincts, one north, one south, along with some other public safety enhancements this year. So that's something for us to to feel good about. We are creating jobs in DeKalb County. We know that it's been a really difficult economy, and so you may have seen a big bus out front. That's our mobile career resource center, or short term, we just call it the jobs bus. And what we're doing is we're taking resources out to every neighborhood in DeKalb County. That bus will ride around to schools and to other places where our citizens gather. They can go in, they can use computer and resources and do a job search. I mentioned that we're upgrading our water and sewer system, $1.35 billion over the next 8.5 years of water and sewer upgrades. We're not going to wait for our infrastructure to break down. It's a basic human necessity that you have a flushable toilet and clean water when you cut on the faucet. We want to make sure that that continues to function. And so we'll be doing these upgrades. You'll be paying for the upgrades as citizens of this county because we have to do them. It's federally mandated, for one, and it's federally mandated because we have an aging water and sewer system. But the good news is that we are hiring vendors, engineering firms and construction firms and white-collar jobs, and they'll be doing the work for the county. And in return, they're going to be hiring DeKalb County citizens through our job stimulus program that we call One DeKalb Works. So we're actually rebuilding our infrastructure, creating jobs for our citizens right here. We're already putting together a database of citizens, and we're working in conjunction with some private sector partners like our labor unions, the National Urban League, our technical colleges, and Goodwill Industries to make sure that those citizens are trained and ready to go to work, and we'll be monitoring that work. So we're working very hard to create jobs. That bus, by the way, is federally funded. If I didn't say that already, federally funded. So we're doing a good job. Today is a good news for DeKalb County. In my first year in office, we got $175 million in federal stimulus funds right here in DeKalb County. I want you to just pause and think about that for a minute. Because of the good work of the folks that we have on staff in the DeKalb County government, $175 million is more than some states received in stimulus funds. And we were able to put that to good work. And today, we received more good news. A number of federal funds through the Atlanta Regional Commission were awarded today for transportation, as well as for what we call LCI grants, which are for planning improvements. And several of those, five LCI grants went to different community projects. 2 of those grants went to DeKalb County projects. So we're very proud of that. A number of agencies and departments and counties and cities got some additional transportation funding. DeKalb County was included in that number. We got a significant amount of that, and MARTA received funds in excess of $1 million, which is a system that we support. So DeKalb County did very well in the awarding of ARC funds that will be announced. If it wasn't announced late today, it will be announced tomorrow. And so you're the first to hear it. And next week, we will be making announcements about $100 million in induced businesses that will be relocating or expanding right here in DeKalb County. So that means the work of our Development Authority and our new Economic Development Department, headed by Charles Watley. I think I saw Charles come in. Charles, stand up so everybody knows your face. Our new Director of Economic Development. We've got new businesses now located in DeKalb County. I've probably had more meetings with businesses locating, real opportunities, exciting opportunities, creating jobs in DeKalb County in the last, how long have you been here? About 3 months, 4 months? More in that time period than I did in the previous months that I was CEO. So that's good news on the jobs front. And then finally, we're supporting our school system. We know that schools are important. We can't be a vibrant community without a strong school system. We have a new superintendent. As soon as she got hired by the school board, I invited her over to my office. I have quarterly meetings with all of the university and college presidents in DeKalb County. We meet, we call it our Higher Education Advisory Roundtable, something I campaigned and promised I would do, that I would utilize all the resources of this county. We realized our college and universities were an underutilized resource. We wanted to bring them to the table. We began to tap into their knowledge base. One of the areas that they decided that they wanted to support was the public education system. The new superintendent welcomed that, so we invited her to the table. So we've been meeting and collaborating around ideas that we could use to undergird the school system. They have put out their new strategic plan, and part of that plan is that they cannot operate in isolation. They can't operate alone. And so we're using our college, higher education, college and university presidents at the table with me and the school superintendent as we work towards solutions. We're also supporting their STEM program over the summer. We use one of the school facilities, and then we train the students through our One DeKalb program on programs, science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, so that we can provide them opportunities of how they can learn over the summer and not just be idle. We've got a soapbox derby track that we are proposing to be built, You probably know there are a couple of soapbox derby associations in Metro Atlanta, one here in Dunwoody, one in Marietta. They're very excited about the idea of having a permanent track that we're constructing with bond money. We acquired the land for it. We've done the design work. We're ready to go ahead and approve the bids that have gone out so that we can begin construction of this track. It's not just a fun activity, but it's an educational activity to teach young people about science and math, physics, learn and have fun at the same time. And at the same time, it's an economic development opportunity as well. So we're very excited about that. And so we have a number of good things going on. We have, did we bring our stakeholders report tonight? I don't see anybody holding a stakeholders report. Where's Burke? Okay, do we have our stakeholders report? I see some people have it, so it must be at the table outside. Grab the stakeholders report. There's so much more. I didn't talk about the 8 new and improved libraries. I don't have time to talk about the rec centers and the new YMCA we're building and the streetscape improvements and some of the wonderful capital improvement projects that are also helping us to grow jobs, improve our infrastructure, and build our quality of life through the bond referendums that you passed in the past. We're not going to let that money just sit by idly while costs go up. We've instructed that we move forward, libraries, that we move forward and do these things now. And so I want you to take time and read that report if you would. There is some really good information contained therein. And the last thing before we take questions is, I don't know whether do we have our voters registration table here tonight? Okay, so we have our 1 DeKalb votes. We want our folks to make sure that you're registered and that you understand that this is an election year. The county's costs are going up this year because we have to pay for at least 3 times to go to the polls and maybe a 4th time. There's a presidential primary on March the 6th. Is that the correct date, March? Okay, I see a nod. Okay, March the 6th, presidential primary election. July 31st, primary elections for local government, county government offices, as well as an important transportation referendum, which I'll talk about in just a moment. There could be runoffs to those elections in August, and that would be the 3rd time you'd have to go to the polls, and then the 4th time would be the presidential election in November. So it's important that we know and understand, and we're mindful. I think probably everybody knows about the November elections, but the presidential primary, the July elections, and any runoffs may not be on your mind at this time. Lastly, the transportation referendum. This July, we'll have an opportunity as a region, as a 10-county region, to go to the polls to vote on a penny sales tax for a number of transportation improvements throughout the Atlanta metro area, including DeKalb County. I was a member of a roundtable of 21 elected officials that met for months and came up with a project list. $8.5 billion of revenue to come into the area over the next 10 years, and $6.14 billion of transportation projects, regional transportation projects. The difference will be selected by local jurisdictions. The city of Dunwoody, for example, will get to pick local projects. DeKalb County will have an opportunity to pick local projects. But $6.14 billion of regional projects already selected on a project list. Of that $6.14 billion, 21% of the money will be spent supporting DeKalb County projects. A good bit of it transit projects, almost $1 billion in transit projects out of $1.3 billion that'll come to DeKalb County. We have some handouts. I believe we should have some handouts on the back about that as well. Take a moment, look at that, talk to your neighbors. It's important that we go out and we vote on July 31st. I can't tell you, I don't know if I can tell you how to vote, okay? Can I do that? Okay, I can't tell you how to vote, okay, in this forum. But I can tell you, I want to make you aware that we have that vote and the importance of it in reducing traffic congestion. Anybody think we don't have a transportation problem, a traffic congestion problem in Atlanta? Atlanta Metro, we do. Improving air quality and a side effect, creating jobs. I was at the Atlanta Regional Commission today, and they told us the overall impact would be 200,000 jobs, as I recall, Gordon, between now and 2040. Is that right? Do I remember? Are my numbers right? Okay, 200,000 jobs between now and 2040. So it could have a significant impact in getting us out of the economic doldrums we've had to live in. And it's an important vote if we're going to compete with other jurisdictions like Charlotte and Seattle and Phoenix and Dallas and some of the other areas that we're going to have to continue to compete for dwindling federal funds. And so I want to put that on your radar screen. And with that having been said, let's open it up for questions, and we'll go from here. Yes, Bob, you want the first question? Okay, you can use the mic if you like.
Thank you for being here, Mr. CEO. Is it on?
Thank you, Bob. I think
It's not on? It's
yeah,
on.
just turn it up a little.
Thank you for being here. One of the things I think most DeKalb County citizens have appreciated over the years is DeKalb County sanitation. And to that end, of course, I know the county's visiting what the future delivery system will be and how it will work. Can you bring us up to date on where we are and where you think we're going to be headed?
Yeah, we're looking at some alternatives to that for a number of reasons. One, to save costs, and Commissioner Elaine Boyer is coming in. Thanks, Elaine, for being here. I want to recognize her. One, to save costs. The other, to meet sometimes the differing requests that we hear from our citizens, and to be responsible with our resources, of course. And so we are moving this year from a voluntary, we have a recycling program, to a recycling program that we would do for the entire county. In other words, right now you have to pay a fee, and if you pay the fee to get a bin and you get the bags, you can recycle on a voluntary basis. And so we're going to move to recycling for everyone over the course of the year. And we won't charge a fee for the bin and for the bags. We'll distribute them to all DeKalb County citizens. We'll have education on the importance of recycling. We'll monitor how that goes over the course of the year. And then we'll make a decision about whether we want to move to, instead of a 2-day trash pickup, a 1-day trash pickup. Right now we have a 2-day, twice a week, I meant. Right now we have twice a week trash pickup, once a week recycling, and then we have waste pickup, yard waste pickup on an additional day. The idea is if we can get more people engaged, and I think right now only about 20% of the county is involved in recycling, but as we get more of our citizens involved in recycling, then that's less other kind of trash you'll have, and the need to have a twice a week trash pickup may not exist. So step one is to expand recycling, and then have education to support that, monitor that, and then we'll make decisions about whether we can reduce our trash pickup as well. So thank you for that question. Okay, and I'll get you next. Okay.
Mr. Ellis, my name's Fred Brandt, and I'd like to ask you about the county's approach to its defined benefit programs. I understand that this is a major liability on the balance sheet of the county. Many private sector and some public sector entities have moved from defined benefits to defined contribution. So I'm wondering if you, as the leader of the county, regard this as a problem going forward for the future, and if so, what do you intend to do to change things?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Brand. I do consider it a problem, and let me just explain the difference between a defined benefit and a defined contribution. The way the county and a number of governments, and it used to be the standard bearer in corporate America as well, is that you have a defined benefit. So based upon the number of years you work in county government and your salary level during that time, you are guaranteed a benefit. It's a defined benefit at the end of your tenure. So when you retire and reach a certain age, there's a certain amount of money that comes to you automatically. The problem with a defined benefit plan is that we invest our monies just like you do in any other pension plan. We invest it in the market. Over the recent years, the market's been very volatile, but it's underperformed. And when markets underperform, then that means there has to be more money that's put into the county's pension plan because people are guaranteed a certain outcome at the end of the day. It's not that we automatically have the money unless we either have good performance in the marketplace, or when you have less than good performance or less, not as good as you project, then you got to put more money in. There's a portion that's put in by our employees, and there's a portion that's put in by the county. So I advocate moving away from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan. We've actually had our actuaries look at it, and Joe Gottlieb, our CFO, is here. He can explain it better than I can, but the recommendation is that we move initially towards to a hybrid plan, which has attributes of both as we move away from defined benefit. Now, this is a long-range solution. It's not a short-term solution, and let me tell you why. Because the employees who currently work or worked for the county up until the point of change, they come in and we have a contractual obligation to give them their defined benefit if they meet, if they meet all the qualifications. And so we can't change it on existing employees, but we have to begin to change it on new employees because it's just not sustainable. A defined benefit plan is not sustainable. So that's what corporate America has moved towards, 401k plans. I mean, that's essentially what those are. That's what we'll be moving towards. Not a lot of local governments have done that. We're probably one of the first that are moving in that direction. But as we look towards long-term sustainability, it's what I think we've got to do. And I support that. And have proposed that, and we presented options to the Board of Commissioners. I might add that as well. Yes, sir, you have the next question.
Thank you for letting me talk. I am here tonight on behalf of my son and daughter-in-law who are residents of Dunwoody. If I could just ask for about 60 seconds of your time to read a prepared statement, I would appreciate it. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Yeah. I'm here tonight to provide more information about the DeKalb Animal Shelter. As we all know, the county taxes paid by Dunwoody residents, just like all DeKalb County residents, help pay for the shelter. As such, Dunwoody residents should be as concerned about the situation there as any DeKalb resident is. I would like to specifically state that I have absolutely no personal issue with Major Mooneyham or any of the director of the shelter or any of the people who work there. I believe they're doing the best job they can with the resources they're provided. Today I received a copy of the inspection report from the Georgia Department of Agriculture on the DeKalb Animal Shelter that was conducted on February 7th between 9:30 and 10:30. The last sentence of the inspector's comments reads in part, "Upon inspection, I did see rats in the back dog area." The back dog area to which Inspector Sims is referring is the non-public access area where animals are kept before they are moved to the adoption section. Those of us who have been complaining for years about the poor drainage, the roaches, the rats that share the same space as these innocent animals have now been vindicated. I'll be emailing a copy of this report to you and the county commissioners tomorrow and look forward to your response. Furthermore, I've been informed that a local vet recently treated 6 animals rescued from the DeKalb Animal Shelter. 4 of these 6 were diagnosed with a disease called parvo. Parvo in dogs is a real tragedy. Once the virus chooses the victim, most dogs will suffer a great deal of pain and eventual death if not treated. One of the 4 animals with parvo did die a horrible death. Fortunately, the other 3 were saved, although the vet bill to the rescue group was $1,530. May I remind you, this is just one vet and one recent example. Furthermore, here are some statistics that were gathered about the shelter between 2008 and 2010. Over 15,000 animals were killed. Over 2,000 are accounted for and presumably dead. Over 700 were found dead in their cages at the shelter. If you average out these many dead animals over this 3-year period, it averages about 16 animals per day, every day, for 3 years. Residents and voters of DeKalb County will not tolerate these statistics and findings of the Georgia Department of Labor. As of this morning, there are almost 1,700 signatures on a petition demanding action to correct these atrocities. All of us look forward to correcting this urgent problem that has been ignored far too long by DeKalb County. And one final statement, I appreciate the $400 million that we're spending on the water and sewer improvements through a bond. Rough estimates.
400 million.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
I thought you said billion, but.
No,
okay.
good guys.
All right.
No. 400 million. Thank you. Estimates, unofficial estimates, would say that it costs between $8 and $10 million to build a new shelter. I think that's chump change to the city's, to the county's budget. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for that question, a very important question. Let me just jump to the end before I directly talk about animal services. The water and sewer is paid out of an enterprise fund. Money's dedicated to that from fees that are charged for water and sewer services. So I want to be clear. We can't take a portion of that $400 million and use it for animal services, which comes out of our operating budget, which we call our tax funds budget. But we've got a problem with animal services, so there's no question about that. I've visited the center more than once. The conditions are deplorable. The animals deserve to be in a better situation than what they're in. Our rate of euthanization is much higher than what is acceptable. I've talked to the public safety director and Director Mooneyham about that. When I first became CEO, we appointed an animal services task force, a task force of citizens, and I gave them charge to look at animal services and come up with solutions. They did just that. They've come up with a report. We've also pulled them in to help with the implementation phase. And there are some long-term steps that are tied to funding. I mentioned that we've had to rein in our spending because in local government, we can't spend more than we bring in. And we've lost a lot of revenue because of the decline in the value of real estate. So we have our revenue problem is impacting our ability to upgrade and really build a new facility, which is what we need to do. But we've come up with some short-term solutions. One, we're presenting, which is our normal process, presenting budget amendments prior to the adoption of the budget by the Board of Commissioners, one of which will ask the board to restore some of the positions that were taken away in animal services because they need more resources there. We are working with the chair of the task force to identify a storefront location right now, like a closed PetSmart or something like that, that can be used for animal adoptions in the short term, maybe in an underutilized shopping center or someplace like that. But a facility that would be equipped but is better than what we have. And I feel like I'm leaving something out, Director Miller. I want to talk about what's going to happen on February the 14th, but we've put out an RFP for the outsourcing of animal services as well. And one other thing, because we're looking at a number of outsourcing opportunities in DeKalb County, and animal services is one that's been identified. I mentioned that it's going to be difficult to fund a new center or a rehab of our existing center, but we do have a proposal right now that might allow us to utilize an innovative way of borrowing some money to do it. But we've got that before our law department right now. So until we hear back from them, which should be shortly, I can't say whether we'll be able to do that or not. Some good news. On February the 14th through, where's the director? Is she here? Okay. February 14th through the 18th, I guess as a part of our Valentine's Day and showing love to a pet, you'll have an opportunity to visit our center and adopt a pet. And so we've got that promotion going on right now as well. So do we have work to do? Yeah, we got a lot of work to do. We should not be euthanizing the number of animals that are being euthanized, and the ones in the shelter should be under much better conditions. We're very aware of that. We're hearing from a number of citizens. We're very actively engaged and know that time is of the essence, and we're working on it. So thank you very much for that question. Yes, sir. I'll keep looking over here, too. Yes, sir. You're next.
Hello, Burrell. I'm Tom Riley. I'm with the Ashford Alliance.
Hey, Tom.
And we've been involved in a couple of issues with the county, particularly. And the general issue in front of us involves the Brookhaven LCI, the Livable Centers Initiative. As you know, that was set up several years ago, and it cost about $100,000, and it's supported by DeKalb County. Recently, what we've been involved in involved two things. One is a store, and the other is a sign. The store was the Walgreens, which they want to put in the area, and which architectural style contradicts the style of the Brookhaven LCI. And the other is that big electronic sign right there in the Fulton County, DeKalb County line. I'm hearing reports of people having to close their curtains at night so they can get some sleep that are near this sign. I understand there have been several changes in the area, and I just wondered if you would update us on those two projects.
Yeah, is Gary Cornell here? Because I'm going to ask Gary Cornell. Is Gary Cornell going to be here tonight? Does anybody know? Okay. Anybody from planning here? Anybody from planning? Okay. I'm going to answer it as, I'm going to have to give you sort of the short answer and not the long answer as best I can. I've met with the folks in our planning department about the Walgreens and the two-story issue. And it is my understanding from that meeting that, and Dr. Samama, you were in that meeting with me. As I recall, the Walgreens hasn't been constructed yet. Is that right? Okay. But it is going to be constructed in accordance with the LCI. There are some, they're going to put the second story on there. The interior, as I recall, is not going to, which would be office space, is not going to be immediately finished on the inside. In other words, ready for a certificate of occupancy. Just because they've got to wait until there's a market for the space. But from the exterior, it will look like the designs under the LCI. Some folks have had some concern, and I believe wanted them to build a parking garage on the back. As I understand it, there will not be a parking garage in the back, but that's not mandated by the LCI. And there was another issue related to, but there will be parking on the back. And then the store would be moved up to the street. And then there was an issue about the curb cuts. And I think the curb cuts will be on the side street and not on Peachtree, as I recall. So our staff is going to make sure that the standards are adhered to in the LCI. The sign is a little bit more complicated. I met with the owner of the sign this Monday, as I told several people. I was in Brookhaven last week, and I told them that I would do that. I met with the owner of the sign, and I met with their lawyer, and I got a call from a reporter today, and I know Ms. Williams and other people are going to take down every word that I have to say. And I've got my staff actually crafting a letter because I really wanted to get to my constituents before I started talking to the media about it. The problem is this. And I got all the legal documentation from our county attorney today, but essentially there was an agreement that allowed this owner of the sign to put the sign up there. It was part of a consent order that came as a result of some litigation. There is another owner that has a sign down the street about 1,300 feet away. Should this sign be removed, that other sign owner apparently would then have a right to put up an LCD sign also in Brookhaven, okay? So he can't do it right now, and I just gotten the legal documentation, but I haven't had a chance to read it. It just came to my office today because I told him to get me the legal documentation so I could just read it. I'm a lawyer. I can read it with my own legal eyes. But what I understand right now is that we got the LCD sign in place. We got another sign 1,300 feet up Peachtree Road, which is not an LCD, but they're next in line. And should they take down their sign, that gives this other person a right to put up their sign. So the Action Outdoor Advertising, I think it is, they're the owners of the current sign. They're willing to talk about some sort of relocation or change in the type of sign, but we may, it's looking like right now, we may have to have a conversation with another sign owner before we agree to do that, because what they don't want to do is just simply take their sign out and then have the same problem, except they don't get to have their sign up anymore. Someone else gets to have their sign up anymore, and I don't think that's what the community wants. So we're trying to work that issue out. Okay. Not an easy answer, I know. Yes, sir, in the back. Did I get that right, Dr. Samama, by the way? I mean, you were in the meetings. Is that pretty accurate? Okay, good. All right. Yeah, we're being sued by Walgreens, too. So we're fighting it. Yes, sir.
My name is Frank Ratka. I've been a resident of DeKalb since 1972 during good and bad years. In terms of your 2012 budget, as I understand it, there are some assumptions that I would say are questionable. But aside from that, it also does not provide for the creation of Ashford, Brookhaven, whichever. How are you going to handle it when you lose that income? If that happens, are we going to look at another increase in millage as you did this year or last year to provide for the fact that Dunwoody, you lost the Dunwoody income?
You're going to have to be a little bit more specific about the first part of your question about the assumptions that we don't include.
Well, I don't know that we need to get into that.
But you want to know about the
saying
city.
There are some assumptions that I think are questionable, which I don't think we get into. The big concern, is the not providing for the loss of income if, in fact, Ashford becomes a city.
I want to talk about that, but you made a presumption in your question that I don't agree with. You said there were some presumptions in my budget that were questionable.
Well, forget that. I'm sorry I brought that up.
Okay, I got it. I will forget it. I just want to respond to it because you did bring it up. Okay. And this isn't just a one-on-one conversation. This is a community conversation. If I let it go and didn't say anything about it, others might hear it and presume that that is true. So I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't believe that to be true. But let me tell you about the budget process and how we work. The budget is presented by the CEO to the Board of Commissioners by December the 15th of each year. And then the Board of Commissioners has until the end of February of the following year to adopt the budget. Then the board gets to the summer, usually June, and goes through the millage setting and budget adjustment process. In other words, at that time, we will have information from our chief appraiser, Mr. Hicks. Calvin Hicks is here. He's our chief appraiser. He runs our tax assessor's office. We will have information about the values of the property in DeKalb County at that time. We will know whether we at that time need to make any adjustments to the budget, and the board will be called upon to set the appropriate millage rate to operate that budget at that time. So let me say we're in a volatile, the real estate markets are quite volatile right now. There was an article last week in Atlanta Journal-Constitution that said nobody can, with 100% accuracy tell you where the markets are going to be, in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. But we've taken a very conservative approach to budgeting, and we've seen the real estate values in the county fall some 21% over the last 3 years. That's about a $5 billion decline in our tax digest. We've made the appropriate adjustments, been very conservative in our budgeting. We are projecting, or at least budgeting, I don't know, we've got a budget, conservatively projecting a further 5% decline in the value of real estate this year, which we may see happen and we may not see happen. We really don't know. But when we get to mid-year, we will have better information, and then we will present the appropriate adjustments to the board at that time. The impact of a new city, and we don't know if that's going to happen right now. It's still in the General Assembly. Did anything happen today? Does anybody know that anything happened today? Mm-hmm. So last I heard is it was out of the Governmental Affairs Committee, is before the Rules Committee. It may go to a vote this year, but the impact will be in 2013. And so we will know by July of this year, maybe earlier, depending on what happens during this legislative session, what's going to happen with the city of Brookhaven or Ashford or whatever it should be called. and then we'll make those appropriate adjustments in the 2013 budget.
Now, my question is, how, in your opinion now, how will you, should that happen, how will you adjust the budget? Will it be through cutting positions, or will it be raising millage?
I can tell you what my general philosophy is, but I mean, again, you know, let me tell you, and we've been very conservative and aggressive at the same time in how we've tackled a very serious economic crisis that just hasn't affected DeKalb County, but it's impacted the state of Georgia, the United States of America, and all of us globally. And what I can tell you is my general philosophy has always been, first and foremost, the government should tighten its belt before asking citizens to do more. My first year in office, I cut the budget by $58 million. The second year of our office, that rose to $87 million. By my third year in office, that was up to $130 million in cuts. So, you know, we've always had a philosophy of tightening our belt. But I've also learned that we've got to balance that because our citizens cry out for services. They want their, you know, we went through a strategic planning process. And we went all over this county and we asked people about what they would be willing to sacrifice in terms of service delivery. And we heard over and over again, I want more, I want more, I want more. So we asked the question a different way. We asked people, we said, okay, you know, we've cut out, for example, we had a blues and jazz festival. I made a decision that that wasn't an essential government service. So we're not doing that. We proposed cuts to other areas, for example, and there were other things we cut as well. I'm just giving you some highlights because that was costing us some hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. We made other cuts. For example, I looked at our cooperative extension, 4-H clubs, and said it's a good program, but maybe, excuse me, it's not an essential government service, and we proposed to phase that out. That constituency group lobbied the Board of Commissioners, and that was put back in the budget, so it didn't get cut out. I proposed the closure of some of our rec centers, not complete closure, but reductions in hours and reductions in programs. Again, the Board of Commissioners put that back in after being lobbied by some of the groups and neighborhoods where those centers were, and these were centers all over the county. We didn't just pick on one area of the county. There were 5 centers in different areas of the county, and we dispersed it around. And still we heard from groups that said, we want those back in, and they were placed back in the budget. And so we're now looking at, we did 2 other things. We identified non-tax sources of revenue. We put together a Revenue Enhancement Commission. We had some top-notch leadership like Bill Dahlberg, who was the former head of the Southern Companies, who's a DeKalb County resident. He headed that group. They brought us some ideas. We're implementing those ideas. We have some opportunities to raise some fees in other areas to be competitive with local jurisdictions. We've got those before the General Assembly, and those are making progress right now. And so doing a number of things. We're focusing on innovation right now and outsourcing. I talked about animal services, senior services, and some other areas that we're looking for outsourcing opportunities. And we've put together an innovation advisory committee in conjunction with the folks at IBM so that we can look at opportunities to use technology to improve efficiency without raising taxes. So I don't know where the market's going to be at the end of 2012. You know, I don't know that yet. But neither does. But let me just say this.
I'm not talking about market. I'm talking millage.
Yeah, no, but
you say you're conservative. The last millage rate was not conservative, number one. Number two, and I'll bow out with this, the citizens are crying out for services. This is one citizen didn't cry out for the bus outside. Thank you for answering.
Yeah, but the bus outside was federally funded. It wasn't funded through a millage rate increase. And millage is driven by the marketplace. And if you don't understand that, then you know that's the only way I can explain to you how the county government operates. Because our revenue comes from the value of real estate in the county. And if the value of real estate, the real estate market falls as it has and continues to fall, we can fix that in a couple of ways, a few ways. We can further decrease our spending, which at this point means cuts in services, because we've taken most of the inefficiency out. We can continue to look for efficiencies, though, through innovation, and we're doing that, and we've improved a tremendous amount there, or we can increase the millage rate. But we're always careful to do that as a last measure, not as a first measure. And that's been the hallmark of how I've conducted the finances of this county. So thank you for the question. Yes, ma'am. I think so. Keep talking. Okay. We'll see.
I have a question about a different kind of sign. We were driving in Chamblee, and we're very surprised we pull over for a wrongful U-turn. And when we got a very expensive ticket, but when we went back the next day to see how we missed such a sign, we were interested to see that it didn't look like it was in a place that you could see the sign, and we also saw 5 more cars do the same U-turn in 5 minutes. So I did my research, I found what the regulations are, and the signs, in fact, are not where people would see them. They are not according to regulation. I have tried to get people to correct it. I don't know the right route to go. And the one other case that we heard in traffic court was for the same place, same problem. And there's another sign problem 2 streets away at the post office there that also is missing a sign, and an out-of-town guest got another $150 ticket that she couldn't contest because she had to leave. And I took that one to the police chief, who agreed with me, but nothing has been done.
Which chief?
I have a copy of the letter. I think it's Robinson?
Yeah, I think you're talking about a city of Chamblee.
I'm sorry, Johnson.
Is that city of Chamblee? Okay, that's not DeKalb County, but I'm going to help you anyway. I'm going to ask the gentleman behind you, Director Miller. I'm going to ask him if you will give him your information and where the sign is located. Because we've got good relations with the the other jurisdictions, we'll talk to the folks at Chamblee. What I want you to know is it sounds like we didn't put the sign up and we didn't pull you over, but we'll see if we can get it corrected for you. And when I say corrected, I mean, I don't know if I can get the ticket corrected, okay? But the signage.
For a number of reasons. People are getting big tickets, but also it's hurting the town there. I don't shop there anymore because I'm afraid I'm going to get another surprise.
All right, we'll speak with our folks in Chamblee and let them know they've got a problem. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir. My name is Melvin Winograd, and I've lived in the same house for about 15 years. I'm going to talk to you about what you said before about dealing with valuations. From 2005 to 2008, the valuation on my house or property went up approximately 35%. From 2009 to 2011, it has gone down 4%. Mathematically, it does not compute. I've appealed each year for the past 3 years. Last year, on my appeal, in a conversation there, I was told that the staff there had been reduced by about 35%, yet the workload had been increased by about 30 or 40%. I made several calls there after I presented my information. Never once was a call returned or a letter returned. The new procedure now, I have been rolled over to the Board of Equalization. The Board of Equalization presently is having problems because of selection. Secondly, the members of the Board of Equalization do not have the same level of professional training that professional appraisers do. My question is very simple. What are you going to do about this so that people in this area get a fairer hearing?
Well, first of all, while I'm going to invite Mr. Hicks to come up because he's the chief appraiser, and they run an independent. We fund them, or maybe have failed to do that, but we fund them, but they operate independently. He's not my employee who I supervise. The second thing I want to do is jump to the end of your question, because I want you to know that as CEO, I work hard every day to make sure that everybody in every part of the county is treated exactly the same. I want everybody to be treated with good customer service. But I want you to be very clear that I work with staff on a regular basis talking about customer service and talking about equal treatment across the county.
Sir, very candidly, if you had received the same level of service as I have, or didn't get, you would have exactly the same attitude I have.
Oh, no.
The same feeling.
I agree with you. I'm with you 100% because customer service is important to me. Nobody in any part of this county should receive bad customer service. We have some customer service issues that we're addressing. I've got a customer service group, and we're meeting on one day next week. I've lost track of the days, Monday or Tuesday, because we've got some targeted departments now that where if you interface with those departments, you can give immediate customer feedback. And they're reporting back to me on some of the initial feedback that we've gotten in those areas. I recognize that we've got to do better in customer service and customer service training. Now, and that's a countywide problem. That was my point. And let me say this before I give it to Mr. Hicks. Part of what you're pointing out is what happens when you go through drastic budget cuts. People say they want the government to be more efficient. And I think we've done a really good job for an organization of our size of ridding ourselves of waste. But we've gotten to the point right now where departments are really finding it very difficult to deliver the level of services. So when they tell you that they've been downsized and they don't have the staff that they used to have, they're probably, he can tell you specifically what's going on over there, but what they're telling you is that they need more funding. And I don't know, to answer the other gentleman's question, I don't know what's going to happen in the market this year. The easy answer that every citizen wants to hear all the time in any government, a city, a county, I don't care the size of the government, I've seen it all over in this economic crisis. I've never lived through anything like this, is that, yeah, we'll cut. But that's exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about service delivery. We have cut so severely, more than any other government. I said that to the Truth-O-Meter, city or county in the metro area. I said it to the paper. They put me on the Truth-O-Meter, and they found it to be true. So we're efficient. DeKalb County has a reputation of being lean and mean. I remember Manuel Maloof telling me back when I went to meet with him. I was a young lawyer living in Atlanta, and I talked to him about some service. I can't remember exactly what we were talking about now. It's been a number of years. But he told me in his words at the time, he said, well, you know, Mr. Ellis, we're cheap. And so we've done a good job at maximizing the return on investment in DeKalb County. But now we've cut very deeply, and so we occasionally have those problems. And Mr. Hicks, I'll let you address specifics.
Thank you. I also agree that what you've described perhaps is not the best of customer service, but with the understanding, a lot of things have changed. We now are required to send notices to all citizens, all property owners, and one of the things that precipitated was approximately 20,000 appeals being received. Unfortunately, that's enough to just inundate the office. Since 2009, our staff hasn't gone up. It actually went down. I'm down 10 positions, less than I had in that point in time. Primarily because of the loss in value and trying to control cost. Yes. The Board of Equalization is the appeal process that is established by state statute. There have been some modifications, but this is the one that doesn't really cost the individual anything to exercise their right to file an appeal. These people are not designed to be professionals. It's very similar to when you go to a trial and it's a trial by jury, a jury of your peers. These are supposed to be individuals who can listen to the testimony that's offered and render an opinion of what they believe or have the most credence in the preponderance of the evidence that's presented to them. Now, the Board of Equalization has suffered an increase in appeals as well. Of the 20,000 appeals that we received, approximately 10,000